The afternoon sunlight spilled gently through the half-drawn curtains, dust floating in the golden air like tiny fireflies suspended in time. My room was a mess, clothes scattered on the chair, open notebooks stacked unevenly on the table, and a faint smell of laundry detergent clinging to the air. Cleaning days were never exciting for me, but there was something oddly calming about folding shirts, aligning books, and bringing a little order to the chaos. The faint hum of music from the hallway was my background rhythm, and I found myself swaying absent-mindedly as I picked up a pile of forgotten photographs from under the bed. Some of them were old, creased corners, fading smiles, but they carried stories I wasn't quite ready to revisit. I sat there for a while, tracing the edges of one picture with my thumb, feeling the faint ache of nostalgia tug at my chest. The air felt still, too still, until I heard the quiet click of the doorknob turning. It was soft at first, almost hesitant, like someone testing if the door would open. I turned my head slowly, expecting maybe my mother or little brother coming to ask for something. But the door didn't just open. It closed behind whoever walked in with a deliberate thud that made the air feel heavier. My heart skipped just once, but enough for me to notice it. I stood up quickly, my fingers brushing the edge of the dresser for balance. The person didn't say a word at first. I could hear only their slow breathing, the quiet drag of shoes against the carpet as they took a few steps forward. I wanted to speak, to ask what they were doing here, but the words felt caught somewhere between my throat and my chest. The sunlight had shifted, leaving part of the room in shadow. From where I stood, I could see half of their face illuminated, calm, unreadable, and yet something in their eyes felt different. There was an emotion there I couldn't quite name, a mix of hesitation and pain. The kind that makes you question if you should move closer or take a step back. My palms began to sweat, and I found myself gripping the edge of the dresser tighter. The faint hum of the music from the hallway was gone now, replaced by a silence so thick it felt almost physical. My heartbeat filled the space instead, thudding like a drum against my ribs. They finally spoke, their voice lower than I remembered, almost trembling. The words weren't loud, but they carried weight, enough to make my stomach twist. I remember staring at the floor, unable to meet their eyes, as if doing so would make everything too real. The scent of fresh laundry mixed with something else now, something unfamiliar yet sharp, like fear and unspoken truth tangled together in the air. My hands were still holding that old photograph, and I didn't even realize it until it slipped from my grasp, landing face down on the carpet. The soft sound it made felt louder than anything else in the room. The air between us was fragile, heavy with things neither of us knew how to say. Their eyes lingered on mine for a moment too long before drifting to the photograph on the floor. I followed their gaze, watching as they bent down slowly to pick it up, their fingers brushing against mine for just a fraction of a second, enough to send a wave of heat crawling up my spine. That small, fleeting touch carried a storm of emotions that words could never explain. I could see their hands trembling slightly as they turned the photograph over, staring at the smiling faces frozen in time, faces that seemed to belong to a simpler world before the silence, before this moment that now hung between us like a fragile thread ready to snap. Their voice broke the quiet, soft, but full of something I couldn't name, maybe regret, maybe something deeper. Each word felt like a confession and an apology mixed together, the kind that makes your heart hurt because it sounds too honest. I didn't interrupt. I just stood there, staring at the way the light caught the edge of their hair, at the shadow stretching across the carpet between us. My mind was racing, trying to piece together everything they were saying, trying to understand what had brought them here, to this room, to me. The way they looked at me made my chest tighten. as if they were searching for something, forgiveness, comfort, or maybe just a place to rest their guilt. Every sound in the house seemed amplified: the creak of the floor, the faint ticking of the clock, even the slow rhythm of our breaths filling the silence. The room felt smaller now, the walls pressing closer as the conversation deepened. Their tone shifted from steady to broken, and I could see their shoulders shaking ever so slightly. It was strange how someone could look both strong and vulnerable at the same time, how pain could make even the calmest face tremble. I took a hesitant step forward, unsure of what I was supposed to do, but instinct told me to listen. Sometimes listening is the only thing left when words lose their meaning. They started telling me things I never expected to hear, moments they had hidden, feelings they had buried, mistakes they had tried to forget. It wasn't loud or dramatic, but quiet and raw, the kind of honesty that makes your throat tighten and your eyes sting. I wanted to look away, but something in their voice kept me there, anchored. I felt the sting of tears before I even realized I was crying, my vision blurring the way the light hit the room. I wiped my face quickly, pretending it was just dust, but we both knew it wasn't. The photograph was still in their hand, the image now smudged slightly where their thumb had pressed too hard. That small imperfection on the picture felt like a reflection of the moment, fragile, human, and impossible to undo. The silence that followed their last words felt endless, the kind that wraps itself around your lungs and makes it hard to breathe. I could hear my own heartbeat again, heavy and uneven, echoing in the quiet. They were standing so close now that I could see the faint tremor in their hands, the way their knuckles whitened as they tried to hold themselves together. There was a softness in their eyes that hadn't been there before, a kind of surrender, as if they'd run out of strength to pretend. I didn't know what to say. Every word that formed in my mind felt too small, too fragile to carry the weight of what had just been revealed. My voice, when it finally came, sounded foreign to my own ears, low, unsteady, almost afraid. It wasn't anger that filled me, not even disappointment. It was something quieter, deeper, the ache of realizing that nothing would ever feel the same again. They looked at me with a mixture of hope and fear, waiting for something, maybe forgiveness, maybe rejection. The space between us seemed to pulse with everything unspoken. I noticed the faint tremble in their breathing, the way their shoulders sagged as if letting go of a burden they'd carried for far too long. I stepped back, needing distance, needing air. The movement made them flinch, a barely noticeable reaction that told me more than words ever could. My eyes fell on the photograph still clutched in their hand, the same photo that had started this strange, heavy unraveling. I reached out slowly, not to take it, but to touch the corner of it, to remind myself that this moment, however painful, was real. The sunlight that had once filled the room was fading now, replaced by the dull orange hue of evening. Shadows stretched across the floor, touching the tips of our shoes, connecting us even as we stood apart. I could feel the sting of tears again, but I blinked hard, swallowing them down. Crying wouldn't fix anything. It wouldn't change what was said or what was lost. I realized that sometimes the most painful moments aren't loud, they're quiet, whispered between two people who can no longer pretend. The weight of truth sat between us, unmoving, demanding to be felt. They finally broke the silence with a soft, trembling apology, a single word that cracked in the middle, as if their voice couldn't carry the full weight of it. I nodded, not in forgiveness, but in acknowledgement. There was no anger left in me, only exhaustion. I could see the regret in their eyes, raw and unguarded, and it hurt to look at. I turned away, pretending to fix the books on my shelf, but my hands were shaking too much to hold anything steady. Behind me, I heard the faint sound of movement, slow steps toward the door, the creak of the handle turning. The door opened, light spilling from the hallway, and then quietly clicked shut. The room felt colder instantly, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and lingers long after the person is gone.